has been our tradition to end the Malta training course with this high-level seminar. And thus, I wish to welcome you all, and particularly to those who have been able to be with us and those who will come online because of their commitments. And that particularly, I wish to both welcome you and congratulate you, the class of 2023, for what you have been doing for the last 4 weeks, 5 weeks.
Almost 5.
Oh, time flies. And particularly for the support that we have received from the University of Malta, in particular, of course, Professor Alan Dioum and Ambassador of the Ocean, and also the support we have received from UNCTAD for the presence of Dr. David Rivas, under, I think, great sacrifice that he is not in, he's with us, but not in, not COP. I was trying, I was wondering whether it is Dubai or Abu Dhabi. It's Dubai. Dubai. Thank you. We are most grateful also, and we express our gratitude to Lorenzo Vella, head of the representation Europe of the Europe Commission in Malta. Unfortunately, he's unable to be with us, but we would like to thank his support staff and the Commission itself for making this available to us, to have our meeting here and to see that we will conclude the course today when we happily provide you with your certificates. I wish now to give the floor to our Managing Director, Antonella Bassano, and the Dean of our Academy to take us through the day as the moderator of this event. You have the floor.
Thank you very much, Auni. I take this opportunity to reiterate our words of welcome to the people who are with us today in person in the room, who are new alumni joining the IOI family. They're graduating from the 18th training course on ocean governance organized by IOI and the University of Malta in Malta. And I also take the opportunity to welcome with us today those persons who are following online. I remind you that this event will be recorded and placed online for those people who would like to review it or who would like to see it at a more convenient time. Thank you to the speakers and the lineup we have today. We have a very interesting lineup, and the seminar, as per the title shown, will consider is part of the series that considers issues which are important contemporaneously to the issues of ocean governance. Today, the seminar and the speakers will be examining the role of ocean literacy in catalyzing progress on Agenda 2030, but most specifically on SDG 14, which we all know as the ocean SDG, the ocean goal. Our speakers will develop the thematic. We are pleased to have 3 speakers in person joining us in Malta, and another 2 speakers, 2 very important speakers as well, joining us overseas. So an extended welcome as well to Professor Nilofer Oral, who will be joining us from Dubai, where she is present at COP 28, and also to Dr. Vladimir Ryabinin, who is joining us online from Paris. So without further ado, I think we can proceed to the first presentation. I'm moderating and presenting myself at the same time. So I will be speaking about a project of the IOI, which is the Ocean Academy, through which the IOI will attempt to improve global ocean literacy by bringing ocean knowledge closer to people, lay people, people who are interested, by offering modules anchored in local context. Okay. So, thank you. Departing from the premise laid out in the concept note, which was the quote by Baba Dioum, those of you who've seen our program will see that it's given place of prominence in the talk. We were inspired by this quote. In the end, we will conserve only what we love love only what we understand, and we will understand only what we are taught. This concept very much underpins the IOI Ocean Academy, which I will present now myself. Which one? Apologies, because it's not taking it. Okay, so since I'm the first person to speak, I will just take you very briefly through the ocean literacy definition, which is a widely accepted definition of this. And essentially, to be ocean literate is to understand the ocean's influence on you and your ocean and your influence on the ocean. So an ocean literate person should understand how the ocean functions, can talk about the ocean in a meaningful way, and most importantly, based on this, is able to make informed and responsible decisions regarding the ocean and their interaction. The need for ocean literacy programs has been very amply emphasized recently, both in popular outreach media as well as in more academic publications. So, for instance, there is quite strong consensus that society still lacks basic literacy about the ocean, that there is the possibility that we have been preaching and teaching a lot of ocean messages and passing on ocean knowledge to people who are already, we are preaching to the converted, as they say in English, and thus we really should do a better job of reaching a larger audience. Another thing that has been pointed out is that a big ocean literacy gap exists principally with older audiences, because in schools and in school curricula, this is already being addressed in several ways. Looking a bit more deeply into academic publications, one particular publication struck us, which is the one you will see in the slide, the quotation, but essentially, ocean literacy, and according to the authors of this presentation, ocean literacy is essential if we are to achieve the Agenda 2030. They also claim that ocean literacy and an ocean literate world has the potential to catalyze those behavior changes necessary for achieving Agenda 2030. They identify 4 key drivers. So Kelly et al., the authors of this paper, identify 4 key drivers. I'll be talking a bit more about this later on. And also 5 main limitations, 2 of which I will be emphasizing a bit in describing the project, which is the fact that very many programs right now, but hopefully this is changing, are youth-centric, so they tend to focus a lot on children in schools. That's not a bad thing at all, but there are other people out there who have an impact on the ocean, so those audiences also need to be reached. And very many of the programs that were reviewed by the authors of this paper, and which tend to be our personal experience as well, tend to be Western-centric programs. there is a lot of debate and a lot of concern that very often the people who most need to be ocean literate are those people at the front lines of environmental collapse, who sometimes are not reached by this information. In order to address this lacuna, the IOI has launched the Ocean Academy. The Ocean Academy operates under the motto, Ocean Knowledge for All. And that kind of summarizes what we are trying to do. So an Ocean Academy course has been set up to overcome any barriers of access, whether it's financial, there is no cost to attend this, whether it's in terms of access. So we always say anyone with a smartphone and a Wi-Fi connection can join anywhere, anytime, because the Ocean Academy modules are 20-hour modules which are delivered online. And in order to overcome the barrier of language, we noticed that there is a lot of information in the large language clusters, but what the Ocean Academy does is reach out to audiences, local audiences, in local languages, and present to them local thematics using case studies from the regions and their neighborhoods, so that encourages that feeling of ownership and empowerment when people feel linked and connected to the environments that are being described and the knowledge that is being shared. So when people complete a module of the Ocean Academy, what we would like to see is that they gain a basic understanding of the ocean, they learn about the impact of the ocean on them, they can make that connection between ocean and climate, they can understand how their actions relate to impacts and issues. And I think this is the essence of what it means to be ocean literate. We have offered a number of Ocean Academy modules since the launch of the pilot project in the last quarter of 2021, and we have been offering it very successful ever since. The Ocean Academy, the IOI Ocean Academy, is also one of IOI's voluntary commitments towards achieving SDG 14. So to give you an idea of what we have achieved so far, up until 2023, just in this year alone, we will have offered by end of Q4, 43 academies all over the developing world, with an emphasis in the developing world, in 13 countries and offered in 14 languages. And I'll give you a breakdown of what this means. The project, I'm glad to say, with the support of the people who offer this project, who are IOI alumni, just like many of you here, has been very successful. Thanks to the help of the people offering these modules in their own languages, we have managed to offer approximately 70 courses, 70 modules of 20 hours in different languages all over the world since the inception of this project. One thing we notice is that there are approximately 3 to 5 times more applications per course than can be accommodated comfortably. And the reason for this is that the modules emphasize very much the interaction. Questions should be asked, discussions taken, because this is not just a top-down approach, but it's an interactive debate, an exchange between the audience and the knowledge sharer, which allows for really knowledge to be taken up in a very meaningful way. So we intend to expand this program, and those of you who will take a look at this presentation later will see how ambitious we are. We are also offering and aiming to offer ocean academies in a number of languages which are not the main the main language clusters like English, French, etc. The parameters are very positive, upward trends and uptake is very, very good, which encourages us in our progress to carry on this program. And this is really what I would like to emphasize to you. We have taken into consideration the impacts of this project against the four drivers, the four key drivers, and the 5 parameters that I mentioned earlier. So when we consider the background of the participants, we notice that our participants come from a wide variety of backgrounds. This tells us that there's an interest, there's an appetite there, and this also meets that need identified of talking to a wider constituency, not just school children, also older adults. And it also tells us from our readings as well that more efforts need to be made to reach these constituencies, to spread ocean literacy. Again, our offerings are really locally tied, regionally relevant, and participants actually are very surprised to learn that from the abstract general knowledge of ocean literacy to their detailed application, their particular hometown, their base, their region, it's surprisingly interesting for them. They really take home that lesson. It becomes more personal, more empowering. Again, access. We hope we have been able to overcome issues of access by making it really easy for people to join these lessons. As we all are aware, the uptake of smartphones and Wi-Fi is increasing all over the world, even in the developing world. And this allows people to access information in a way that does not involve financial hurdles, that does not involve hurdles of access along as such as traveling. And this makes it more easy for people to get the knowledge we wish to share with them. Again, another thing that we bring back from these, so the knowledge dissemination is not just one way. These modules are a very important way in which indigenous knowledge, local knowledge also comes back into the system. So in summary, and I wrap up here, ocean literacy is essential for achieving SDG 14, improved public understanding, especially in those historically neglected populations and communities, is really important. And this can underpin effective positive change from the grassroots upwards. It's an impactful program in our analysis, and it also addresses the 4 drivers and the key pointers raised by in the paper that I mentioned to you earlier. It addresses those gaps posed by youth-centric ocean learning, Western-centric programs, single-issue foci, and the disconnect between society in which we all live and maybe those closed silos where maybe there's a temptation that decisions are made in closed silos. So the Ocean Academy tries to bring these 2 worlds closer together. And I would invite you to please take a look at our website and take a look, if you're interested, at more information available there. So thank you very much for this.
Thank you very much. Antonella, as the moderator, you cannot thank yourself, but we want to thank on behalf of
yes.
the class. Thank you.
Okay, so I would like to proceed quite quickly to the next speaker. I announced a slight adjustment to our program, and the next speaker will be Niloufar Oral, who is the director of the Center for International Law at the National University of Singapore. She's a member of the International Law Commission. She is a good friend of the IOI, of course, we know her well. And Niloufar will be joining us from Dubai. Is joining us from Dubai, actually, where she is present at COP28. And she will speak to us about recent developments in international law, diplomacy, and the ocean. Thank you very much, Niloufar, for being with us today. So,
thank you, dear Antonella. And can you hear me?
Perfectly. Thank you so much.
Excellent, excellent. Well, greetings from COP28 in Dubai. And may I say what an honor and privilege it is for me to be with you today. My only regret is that I cannot be in person with you in the beautiful and wonderful Malta. I have such wonderful memories of being at Malta. And of course, I was on the board of the IOI. And it really was one of the highlights for me to work with IOI on its important mission, and also to be in Malta. So I thank you, dear Antonella, and of course, the absolutely wonderful Ani and Caspian for including me on today's event. And I'm also grateful to for the indulgence in changing, and I apologize as I made a mistake in the timing, so I will not be able to stay to the very end. Anyway, I'm going to be talking today about some developments that have taken place and are in progress that directly relate to the ocean and, of course, SDG. And I will tie this into the importance of ocean literacy. Well, in a sense, we are really living in a golden time for the ocean. As it has become absolutely central, a topic of great importance in many different fora relating to international lawmaking, international relations, and I'm really going to be focusing on UN activities. Although, admittedly, this attention may be for the wrong reasons. The truth is, and I know that we have some valuable experts who will be speaking more perhaps on this, the truth is that there are so many adverse pressures on the health of the ocean. Many years ago, it was pollution, land-based pollution, shipping, but now we can add climate change. We're looking also at issues such as seabed mining, IUU fishing, and so much more. And all of these stresses are unfortunately from human activities. On the other hand, the good news is that hopefully if we can modify human activities, we can also take the necessary steps to change and actually contribute and improve the health of the oceans. And that is why ocean literacy is so important. So what I will start with is first some good news. Some of you may already know, maybe not, but after many, many years of negotiations, in the acronym is the BBNJ agreement. The long name is the Conservation and Sustainable Use of Biodiversity in Areas Beyond National Jurisdiction Treaty, was adopted by consensus this past June. And may I underline the importance of being adopted by consensus. This is a major achievement and milestone for advancing ocean governance, as it provides a critical framework, a legal framework with binding obligations for collective collaboration in one of the largest spaces on Earth, the ocean, and an area we call beyond national jurisdiction because it's an area that no state has jurisdiction over except very limited jurisdiction for shipping. This was a major gap in the international legal framework. And if I may say, what drove this is an issue that started actually in the 1970s, and it was driven by scientists initially, then NGOs. And may I say that it also did advance, I think, in many ways, ocean literacy to the world that perhaps otherwise may not have been as cognizant of the many pressures that are on what we call also the high seas. So it was adopted. To date, there have been over 80 states that have signed it, and we are hoping for a quick ratification for it to go into force. So I'm just going to give a broad overview and not go into details about these different instruments. Another important development for the ocean is the ongoing negotiations for an international legally binding plastics treaty, and this is taking place under the umbrella of the United Nations Environmental Program. To be quite honest, a few years ago, I think many would have doubted that states have an appetite to take on yet another international treaty. Negotiations are lengthy, costly, and sometimes people are skeptical about whether they can actually promote advancement. But amazingly, the UN Environmental Assembly proved them to be wrong. And then 2022, under Resolution 514, the Assembly, which is composed of member states to the UN, adopted a decision to start negotiations for this new treaty. And it is in progress, and it is scheduled to be completed by 2024. And as you know, plastic pollution is a really a problem that emerged really in the as a crisis in the last years. As we know, millions, if not more, tons of plastic from land-based sources and fisheries as well have ended up in the ocean with catastrophic implications for human life. But we also have to remember this also means humans. Now, another development, and this is something that I'm personally involved in, and that is at the United Nations. I am a member of the International Law Commission and co-chair of the study group on sea level rise. And just to place this in historical context, the last time the International Law Commission addressed the law of the sea was in the 1950s. So it's been a long time. So again, underlining how the oceans has become very focal and central to many activities under the UN umbrella. So what we are looking at are the consequences of sea level rise caused by climate change on international law related issues such as maritime boundaries, islands, archipelagos, and also the continuity of statehood for some low-lying small island states that will, not may, but will disappear at the current level of sea level rise, and also the protection of persons who will also be displaced because of sea level rise and climate change. We are undertaking this work at the General Assembly together with the 6th Committee. And also this issue has been raised with the Security Council. And this is, of course, Malta has been a leader in this, very much so. And in February this year, the Security Council took up the issue of sea level rise. And we also had this year, the General Assembly, the President of the General Assembly convened the first ever informal plenary on sea level rise. And that was attended by all member states. So we see, again, how just the ocean now is entering into so many different areas of the United Nations. But last but not least, the ocean is also taking a central place in advisory opinions that have been brought before the International Tribunal for the Law of the Sea and the International Court of Justice. So first, the Commission on Small Island States instituted a request for an advisory opinion from ITLOS, the Tribunal for the Law of the Sea, last December, and the hearings were held this September, actually. Over 30 states provided written statements and also appeared at the hearings. And the question that the tribunal is requested to provide an advisory opinion concerns the obligations of states to protect and preserve the marine environment from the consequences of climate change. First time ever such an advisory opinion request has been brought dealing with the ocean and climate change. There is also another advisory opinion request, and that is before the International Court of Justice. That question is much broader, but it also includes questions concerning the obligations of states in relation to the Law of the Sea Convention and the ocean as well. So I hope I have shown you just how the ocean is now smack center in many areas of the UN, multilateralism, from policymaking, international law, and also judicially as well. So what does this mean for ocean literacy? If we are to have a robust international system for the protection of the ocean, we need to have ocean literate persons representing the ocean within the multilateral system. This is quite obvious. I'm not sure all the diplomats, negotiators were ocean literate at the time, but I assure you that in all of this, that everyone is becoming ocean literate, because you cannot negotiate, you cannot develop policy without understanding the science of ocean, why we need the oceans. And in the advisory opinions, for example, science was the absolute foundation for the law. We lawyers need to understand ocean science. The policymakers need to understand the ocean. And likewise, it's the other way around. The scientists need to understand the international lawyers and the policymakers. So it's a reciprocal, symbiotic relationship. Capacity building, critical to building ocean literacy. Then this literacy has to cross all boundaries, north, south, east, west boundaries. So much of the developing world depends on the ocean and its resources for their livelihoods. For this reason, it is absolutely essential that these countries have robust capacity to fully represent their interests within the international fora. And I give you one example that IOI knows very well and was absolutely, I think its genesis comes from the work that did to establish the Constitution for the Ocean, the United Nations Convention for the Law of the Sea, that was adopted in 1982. This was a very important convention because it was the first time in the post-colonial period developing countries fully exercised their voices in creating and voicing their interests and creating I think what is still probably one of the most important conventions that have been adopted. So we need to continue that. So in conclusion, I think that the work of the IOI, the Ocean Academy, plays an absolutely critical role in this and will continue to play a critical role in ocean literacy. And I don't want to overextend my time, particularly since I may be stepping into someone else's time here. But thank you so much for this opportunity to speak to all of you.
Dear Nilufer, thank you so much, firstly, for being with us, but also for summarizing so succinctly the developments over the years, what we can face, and also for bringing maybe a bit of a ray of hope to us today as well as some very thoughtful insights on the way forward. So yes, we should be talking to each other much more. I'm in agreement with you on that for sure. We should move to our next speaker, who joins us today. He's in person here, David Viva Segui, who is the Chief of Section, Trade, Environment, Climate Change and Sustainable Development Branch from the UN Convention on Trade and Development from Geneva. David will be speaking to us today about building a sustainable ocean economy and how ocean trade data and ocean-related regulatory outcomes contribute to filling gaps in ocean literacy. So this is the examination of another facet of ocean literacy that David will speak to us about. Thank you.
Thank you, Antonella. Thank you, Auni. Thank you for the audience today. It's a real pleasure to be here. I will be bringing you a different angle on ocean literacy. People tend to forget how important was the Middle East and the Mediterranean for literacy. People forget that when you look at your watch, you look at the 360 spatial measurement and time measurement of minutes, 60 minutes, 60 seconds, that's come from Sumerian, Assyrian, Neo-Babylonian culture. People forget that was thanks to the ocean and to trade that the alphabet made by the Phoenicians that were established here in Malta was spread all over the Mediterranean, leading to all the literature that we have today in Western, but also in Middle Eastern society. So based on that, I'm going to bring you a deep dive on how data, numbers, can also inform ocean management. The question is very simple. Can we conserve? Can we manage? Can we sustainably use any resource, any ecosystem without data? I think it's a little bit difficult. So we will go into that. I am trying to move the thing here. Yeah. So we'll go. Our role and my institution, I come from UNTAC, United Nations Conference on Trade and Development, is to focus on the role of trade. Again, trade has an important technology transfer role in spreading knowledge and technology all over the world. So we said how we can contribute to inform the debate on oceans from the point of view of economics and trade. We develop a classification. There are several. The OECD has one, the World Bank has another. We develop our own classification on ocean trade, meaning goods and services that cross the borders. I'm not talking about sectors within economies, meaning national accounts. I'm talking about cross-border trade. And we developed this classification. You can see there, 6 goods sectors, 6 service sectors, and 1 hybrid sector, which is energy. We took 2 sectors out of our classification because they are not very sustainable, seabed mining and oil and gas. So we focused on the ones that could be sustainable. What we use to measurement for goods, we use harmonized system codes developed by the World Customs Organization. So we measure about 3,000 type of goods disaggregated in several subnumbers to measure goods. And we use the United Nations Central for Classification and different national accounts to develop the services one. Energy is in process and we're working with Sirena on that. But after that, what does it tell us? What does it give us? I'm going to bring some examples. This is the latest data we have available on the value of the ocean trade in goods and services. You can see the different sectors we have. We have started measurement in 2012, very early. We have followed the measurement pre-COVID and post-COVID. Pre-COVID, we got a peak of 2.5 trillion in 2018. In 2021, after we had the first measurement after the COVID crisis, we are at 1.6 trillion. So it's still 40% lower. It's coming up, but the impact of COVID was very significant on oceans trade and ocean trade activity. The most heated sector was coastal and maritime tourism. That went down, obviously, because of all the logging measures. Surprisingly, there was a phenomenon. Well, all services went down. All goods exports went up, including seafood in form of prepared canned food because people needed to keep it on the shelves, but also all electronic devices for surveillance, monitoring on the seas because there was nobody to do it, communications, but also many new innovative products in terms of cosmetics, blue foods, biotechnology, etc. So there was a boom, and even for the first time ever, goods went over services in terms of trade. But this ocean economy includes about 150 million people. These are direct jobs, talking about fisheries, maritime transport, port, research and development, etc. Now, what else the data tell us? Who are the big winners? Who are the big actors? And this was surprising. It's mainly the EU and Asia. Europe and Asia. Europe larger, including Russia here. Now, the Americas is very small compared to the other two, and this is very surprising when you think that the US is in the Americas basket. Africa and Oceania are very small now, but they have very high growth rates, so they will be coming soon as population and demographics change. I'll continue. In oceans, we go deeper and go further. So we're going deeper. Now, something interesting here, we did an analysis of how developing countries would look in this ocean economy. And we realized here you have the list of the top 10 ocean economy exporters from developing countries. You have India, Turkey, Thailand, Mexico, Vietnam, etc. Interestingly, they're very active. And while in the terrestrial economy, they are very focused on monoproduction or oligoproduction, very few products of export, usually commodities. In the oceans, they are quite diversified. So there are very interesting opportunities for expansion, economic diversification, investment, blue jobs in the ocean economy in developing countries. So it must become a priority in their economic planning. Continue, sorry, just many. I can talk of each slide to talk 1 hour, but I'm trying to make it simple so I pass the message. Here we have a database. It's a public good. You can go any day. I can do a demo if you like later. But you can even use artificial intelligence to look at the different flows. And you see how the ocean economy goods and services are moving. Mainly it's a process east, west, west, east. It's not north, south. And then it tells you that this is the current trend. It will be changing with time, but so far this is what we can see. Now, if we go again deeper, I'm going to give 3 examples. I'm not going to speak on 3 examples because we cannot do it. I'm going to show you 3 examples of how we can look data from different angles and how that helps literacy. First, this is data from the FAO about the status of fish stocks worldwide. It's very well known. Now, when you see that chart, if you ask 3 different people, industrial fisher, an environmentalist, and a scientist, what they read, they will give you 3 different answers. The industry will tell you it's very good because we have more stocks being sustainably managed. You have the environmentalist that is very bad because we have incrementally more stocks in depletion status. And you ask a scientist and they will tell you are only measuring 50% of the oceans, so this is irrelevant. You don't have the total evidence to make a decision. So that tells you how complicated things can be. What I can read from this is that both sustainably managed stocks and depleted stocks are growing. And this sounds contradictory, but it's a reality, all at the expense of non-commercial species. So there are many species that we didn't eat or consume. Now we're consuming everything, okay? Because there is no more fish. Basically, we are right at 90 million tons in 2000, and we have not increased the amount of catch because there is no more fish. We reached the limit. Any other fish you're eating is aquaculture. So the limits of the planet are there, and they are not happening today. They happened 20 years ago. So this is just one lesson, so we can go, we'll give you 2 more, have fun. The second one, let's look at the positive side of the equation then. If we look at all offshore economic sectors, what data tell us? Tell us that there are some sectors that are growing very fast due to the changes in production and consumption patterns. And one interesting one is seaweed and byproducts. Seaweed has been known by thousands of years in many cultures, especially in Asia, but also in the Mediterranean. Seaweed is a wonderful product. Doesn't need fresh water, doesn't need fertilizers, doesn't need chemicals, doesn't need antibiotics. It can have proteins, it can have lipids, it can have carbohydrates. It's fantastic. Okay? And you don't even need land to harvest it. Interesting for Malta, by the way. Now, what we can see from the data, and I put you 2000, 2020, that it has grown 300%, 3-fold in 20 years. Both production and value. So if you want to invest, jump here. So there's an example of how you can use data to really make strategic decisions. Continue. Another area that we look, and this is a very new one, and we were lucky because this is a new group of products identified by UNTAC, what we call non-plastic substitutes. There was the expert before was explaining about the plastic treated. So we say, okay, if plastic is bad, well, it's good. So we say there are many products, raw materials and byproducts coming from natural origin materials, mineral, plant, animal, that could be used to produce products that have similar functions, but that are biodegradable, compostable, recyclable, or erodible. And we identified the value of these products, and it was about $400 billion. The world trade of plastic is 1.2. So it means that this is 1/3 of global trade compared to plastics. We can shift the equation. We can go from synthetic to natural based on the current capacities of today with today's technologies. And other information that you get out of data. Now, more information. So we are all very passionate about the oceans, right? We love it. We live, we come from it. We live in it. We like to obviously end our life looking at it. But when we look at what politicians say and what politicians do, there is a very big difference. This is a data on the overseas development assistance, sorry if I'm not, basically going into oceans, and basically less than 2% of all the global budget for SDGs goes to the ocean, to SDG 14. So it's the less funded SDG of all. We are the Cinderellas of the SDGs. Now, I think the previous speakers will love this chart. This is what she was saying about the regulatory process, but a more complicated chart telling you how things are moving. The key message here is that in the oceans realm, things are moving very fast, faster than any other regulatory aspect at the multilateral level. She mentioned 3 processes. I do not repeat, I will mention 3 or 4 more. One, we have the WTO agreement on fishery subsidies. It's not ended, has a first phase, it has a second phase to expand the scope. You have an increased number of marine species being covered by the CITES agreement. This is because we are depleting again. More marine species are going to extinction limits. So this is happening. You have also the UN Oceans Forum in UNCTAD, which is trying to gather all the experts, including IOI, to define what should be a blue and ocean economy policy globally. You have the UNSCCC with the loss and damage, again, the issue of sea level rising and the damage on the small islands, and you have the plastic negotiation. Basically, the plastic negotiations are the only last multilateral environmental agreement or UN treaty in process. There is nothing else. That tells you how difficult it is to make policy making today multilateral. We have 2 wars ongoing. We have a scenario where countries are not anymore willing to make commitments, or even if they make it, not put them in practice. So we, in our effort towards literacy, we need to have an action-oriented approach, which is we need to put our politicians, decision-making representatives to understand that this is a priority for today, for tomorrow, and for you. Thank you very much, Madam Chair.
Thank you very much, David. I know that you have very much clarified for us the huge importance of knowledge and data and science-based knowledge, more specifically, to underpin the literacy, ocean literacy, especially those of decision makers. So there are a couple of facts over there which were also good news for me and news for me as well. So thank you for that. Without further ado, I invite Vladimir Ryabinin, who is the Executive Secretary of the IOC of UNESCO and the Assistant Director General of UNESCO. Vladimir, I think we are going to be listening very carefully to your presentation on the Ocean Decade and how literacy contributes to sustainability, because I understand how your presentation will tie together several points that have already been raised so far. Thank you very much, Vladimir.
Thank you very much, Antonella. And because I see the screen, I also see that you see my presentation. You know, despite being a scientist, I'm a bit technically challenged on Teams. So thank you very much. Actually, the 2 previous presentations, actually 3 presentations, already covered certain aspects of what I'm going to say. But I would like also, of course, to review for you what is really happening in the ocean. It's not only plastic pollution. You know, we are now embarking on new types of pollution. Sometimes in the coastal waters, basically the water is a solution of different medications. So chemical pollution is very, very important. Fisheries issues were mentioned, but not in terms of crimes of fisheries. There is still slavery at sea. You know, there are a lot of physical, biological, ecological issues related to ocean acidification, deoxygenation, warming, heat waves in the ocean. Sea level rise was already mentioned, but there are also some changes that are less visible. For example, ocean circulation. So, you know, this is basically what is happening. And the Plymouth Marine Laboratory actually coined it quite well, stating that the ocean is becoming hot, sour, and breathless. I would like to say also dirty to that. So, you know, now let's move forward. And this was already mentioned. Actually, David spoke about that most unfortunate thing that the ocean SDG 14 is the least funded SDG. So when I look at this set of conventions that are emerging, I think we can. The idea is that we can do better. We can do more holistically in relation to the ocean. In that particular sense, I would like to quote from you. Actually, not even quote, but summarize the first assessment of the state of the ocean that was published in 2016, and it was basically a 1,000-page document. But if you summarize this 1,000 pages just in one phrase, the humankind is running out of time to start managing the ocean sustainably. So the ocean, I would say, agenda when it comes to science is really huge. And this is what IUC is doing. This is about ocean research. The future of the discussions actually in Dubai is very much in the ocean, because ocean carbon sink is changing. This may actually impose new requirements on the national determined contributions in terms of climate carbon emissions. Then we also have to manage ocean data, exchange ocean data through the ocean biodiversity information system. We know that, for example, species go to colder waters with certain speed depending on the species. This is driven by climate change. We are also responsible organization for the two targets of SDG 14, measuring the capacity of ocean science, also developing the ability of countries to measure acidification of the ocean. We are developing different products, tsunami warning systems, harmful algal bloom system. They all converges actually in the management of the ocean through maritime special planning. And we provide a lot of capacity development. There was a missing bit here, actually. And, you know, we realized this quite early. And this missing bit now is covered, and this is the topic of my presentation. This is ocean literacy. So IUC really embarked on ocean literacy, and I would like to say what we do is very similar to what IUI is doing. Antonella, your presentation was excellent. I congratulate you. Very impressive. So we started to analyze the need for ocean literacy, and we have a little bit different definition of it. We say that it is understanding of the ocean's influence on us humans and our influence on the ocean, which is very similar to what you do. So that notion was born in the around turn of the centuries, mostly in the US. They recognized educators in the States that there was no ocean related topics in educational curriculum. But it probably was just I would say limited conclusion, but we really embarked on this. And in 2017, at the first Ocean Conference of United Nations, we came up with the commitment, ocean literacy for all. So IUC is normative setting organization for the world, and we started with development of the ocean literacy principles. So 7 of them are presented here. There are actually 7. So we have only one big ocean. Ocean really shapes the future, the features of the planet Earth. And many people say that the planet Earth should be called planet Ocean. Influence weather and climate, makes Earth habitable, supports life, so that we are connected, and also that ocean really is unexplored. That part, of course, this is my job, and I can speak also long about this. But you know, so the work is now unrolling very fast. But we all in ocean science realized that the same thing that David was mentioning in terms of how much money we spend in the ocean, how much attention we pay to the ocean, you know, it's definitely not enough on the planet ocean. So that is why IUC proposed to United Nations the United Nations Decade of Ocean Science for Sustainable Development. We had a brainstorming in 2016, and that proposal was actually adopted, you know, approved, and the decade was proclaimed in 2017 in December for the years 2021. What is important that in developing of the plan that was really co-designed by many people, we started with the six, I would say, qualifications, 6 definitions of the ocean we would like to see in the year 2030. This was clean, healthy, productive, predicted, safe, accessible ocean. We can have different understandings of this, but someone who actually reminded to me the situation with UNCLOS. There was one person who suggested to Elizabeth Mann-Borghese and the whole club that the constitution for the world can be actually proposed for the ocean. And it was a similar proposal to us, that we need to include the inspiring and engaging ocean in what we design for the ocean science, for the ocean decade. And that actually changed a lot. So that was also about ocean literacy. So we also analyzed and proposed 10 big domains in which we would like to move the ocean science forward, including the science that will change human behavior in relation to the ocean. Now the decade is moving forward. And to be honest with you, in 2016, when this idea was proposed, I could never imagine the scale of that change and transformation. I have to say that, you know, 77,000 people work for the decade. This is an estimate. 3,500 organizations. Around 50. I'm going to sign very soon endorsement letters for more programs. There'll be more than 50 programs focusing on the decade. So this is basically the by far largest undertaking in the history of ocean sciences ever. But what is also important, this is really a community-based enterprise focused on co-design and also not, I would say, technocratic science. This is the science that is based on ethics, on inclusion, for example, we have side programs like empathy in the ocean, leadership of women in the ocean, early career ocean professionals, equity also in the ocean. So that is what is, I think, totally different. And that is the science can really change human behavior in relation to the ocean. We also monitor what is happening in the decade in terms of how many programs we have for certain decade challenges. And I have to say that behavior change is doing quite okay. And most of the programs that are working in the domain of behavior change are really focusing on ocean literacy. And I'm going to speak about ocean literacy more now. You know, first of all, you know, we have, and this is very important, we have a toolkit for the ocean literacy that is available for all. I will give you the website later. This is the map of the world. That shows different kinds of ocean activities. I think it's quite complementary, actually, to the map that IUI Ocean Academy was producing. We have a strategic plan, a working group. We have also emerging legislation. Some countries decided that they need to make sure that by education legislation, ocean is taught in certain schools, particularly this was in Brazil. So, but we also define several categories of the recipients of that effort in the ocean literacy. I can give you, I remember 6 out of 7, unfortunately. So this would be general public, that would be students, that would be governmental officials, educators, media and press and private sector. They all require different approaches in how we can change their behavior in relation to the ocean. So that's exactly why we have training courses, how we can move ocean literacy forward for all these types of categories. And we also have a new blue curriculum that I would like IUI also to look at, and because this blue curriculum may also help you in what you do already successfully, but it's never bad to learn about what others do. So in that particular case, I would like also to move forward on what we do for schools. So this is our network of blue schools, and I think I have to say that this is what Antonella, you said, we have to also focus on older people, for example, like myself. But at the same time, we started to work also in kindergartens. In Venice, we had a special case for kindergarten, Blue Lagoon. It was actually very important for kids even before the school age, but also for the parents and grandparents, I would like to say. So I think the work on on the ocean literacy is really unrolling. Everyone is making a big contribution to this, and this is basically my conclusion on what we can state. And this is the result of my analysis of the 9 years of work as executive secretary. This is the most important thing. We really can save the ocean. Because people just believe, the successes of organizations are measured in terms of budget, publications, meetings, and things like this. But we now understand we can save the ocean health. We can use the ocean sustainably, make contributions to climate change, generate ocean economy, if we, of course, manage to address the issue of climate change. The recipe for this would be integrated ocean management that is based on science. And we are strengthening the ocean science. But in order to pick it up, we need ocean literacy. So that is the medicine that needs to be applied to the ocean now, because basically, I think the formulation of the sickness is out of sight, out of mind of people. We are getting to the mind of people. Ocean literacy works. And let's just move together, developing ocean literacy. You see here on top of the page the address of the Ocean Literacy Portal of IUC. So please go there, take a look. This is also in different languages, mostly of United Nations. I would like to thank you for your attention. Thank you so much. And now my challenge would be to try to stop sharing the screen, but Cosmin can do it easily. I'm pretty sure about that. I can stop sharing the screen, I think.
Thank you very much, Vladimir. I really appreciated your presentation, and especially the point you have made throughout your presentation, that the success of the decade also highlights how important it is to engage the community from kindergarten onwards, and over there we're in complete agreement, to underpin some very important behavioral changes. I'll take a look at the blue curriculum for sure, and I look forward to meeting you next week in Paris as well to continue this conversation. So thank you very much.
Thank you so much. I will have to apologize because of a meeting looming soon. So good luck for the rest of the meeting. Auni, good to see you.
Thank you very much. Thank you. So our next speaker is Alan Dioum. The people in the class over here know Alan very well, but for the sake of those who are joining us online, I would like to introduce Alan as, first of all, the Ocean Ambassador for the country of Malta. He is the course manager of the training program organized by the IOI and University of Malta in Malta right now. And of course, he is the director of the training center of the IOI in Malta. Alan will be talking to us also about ocean literacy, but more specifically on taking ocean literacy to the next level through the use of cutting-edge technology. So this is another gap we are bridging. Thank you. Thank you, Alan.
Thank you, Antonella. Is it working? My time is starting.
We try to leave space for the classics.
Okay. So, yes, first of all, thank you to the IOI, obviously, to the Commission and Representation Malta for hosting us. Actually, I was taking some notes before I start, because these famous words by Baba Dioum, actually, were the inspiration for somebody that we really know, who is Sir David Attenborough, who really recalls these words. So I think he had a very good disciple, you know. But yes, I do agree with Nullifer that this is the year of the ocean. In fact, last February at the Ocean Conference in Brest in France, under the French presidency of the EU, the president of the EU Commission, von der Leyen, was quoted as saying there can be no Green Deal without the Blue Deal. So I think that is very important, you know. I will be splitting my presentation in three, and I'm rushing through it because I have a very long presentation and it will take me 10 seconds on each slide. So, you know, first of all, I will speak briefly about the EU missions, okay? I'm also a board member of the EU mission on Restore Our Ocean and Waters. Within this mission, and we had Vladimir speak to us when we started a few years ago, in fact, we spoke about the emotional deficit when it comes to the ocean. And there was even a Eurostat question that we put in, because you wouldn't obviously think about this when you're living on an island, but it emerges from this Eurostat question that many people feel disconnected from the ocean, even if they live a couple of miles away from the ocean. They don't realize what the ocean is doing for them. Why is it important? That every second breath comes from the ocean. And that is a bit of a lie, because it's not every second breath. It's actually more than 50% of the ocean we breathe comes from the ocean. So they think about trees when it comes to oxygen, which is okay, but they don't think about phytoplankton, you know? But anyway, so in the EU missions, and you might think that this is something marginal, the missions. Europe has 5 missions. The ocean is one of them. There's cancer, there's climate change. So there's really important thematics as part of these missions. But these missions are important because they are shaping the future of Horizon Europe. Horizon Europe is the major funding program of the EU when it comes to research. So what we are discussing at missions level is actually will shape research for the next 5-10 years in Europe. And you can see that we need blue skills to get to blue growth, which is being pushed by the EU. Okay, there's a blue growth strategy and so on. And ocean literacy is the link between the two. So for us to achieve blue skills, to get to blue growth, we need an ocean literate society. And at the moment, there's a massive shortage, you know, of these blue skills. Incidentally, this year, and it's going to finish soon, it has been designated as the European Year of Skills. So we should be speaking about skills, and these are some initiatives at European level when it comes to skills, when it comes to ocean literacy, because skills and ocean literacy are intrinsically related. Okay, so for instance, one of the most important initiatives for ocean literacy across Europe is this EU4Ocean coalition that some of you are already familiar with. Okay, it has a number of pillars. Okay, for example, one of them is this European network of blue schools. Vladimir was showing the global network of blue schools. So now we're, you know, through the funnel approach, we're going to the European level as well. Okay, and there's 3 pillars, as I was saying. There's the blue schools network, there's the platform, and there's the Youth4Ocean as well. And you can see that there's a lot of it happening across Europe within this EU4Ocean. Okay. And these are some of the highlights, in fact, okay, that are happening, that happened in the last few weeks and months. Okay, and there's the last picture. You can see that there's a close collaboration, in fact, with UNESCO IOC. So that's why this links very nicely with what Vladimir was previously saying. Okay, MC. 2017, we organized, when I say we, it was University of Malta and IOI Malta. We hosted the MC conference here in Malta, 2017. So this was already 6 years ago when I think of it, you know. I had perhaps some more hair in my head, but anyway. But we organized MC. MC is the European Marine Science Educators Association. Okay, so our association, when I say our, again, University of Malta with IOI goes back quite some time when it comes to ocean literacy. So that was the first pillar. Okay, what's happening at European level? Citizen science. Again, there's a big collaboration here with IOI when it comes to citizen science. And you are the class of 2023, you are familiar with this because we've been exposing you to some of the citizen science campaigns that we have been developing together with IOI. These are some of the many audiovisual tools that have been developed over the years, which we share even through our email signatures, which are on YouTube. These are incredible tools because they range from short cartoons, animations, underwater documentaries, and so on and so forth, on MPAs, on diving attractions, on important thematics, on invasive alien species, jellyfish, whatever, and there's a myriad of these, okay, even through our YouTube channel, okay? So let's speak a bit about the citizen science campaigns. One of them is for the jellyfish, which was started in 2010, okay, to get University of Malta IOI. It was featured even in The Guardian. This photo that we took called The Eye of the Guardian, and we had a very good interview on The Guardian about this. It was even featured some years ago on Euronews, okay? So this is one of the latest panels. The Spot the Jellyfish campaign is the longest running campaign on jellyfish on a national level in the Mediterranean, okay? I know this for sure. We have a network of seaside panels, which are very popular. Now, if you go on the seas, along the sea, you won't find them because they removed, because obviously winter is around the corner, but they are reinstalled once the baiting season approaches, okay? We have smartphone apps, we have the websites, okay? And this is the evolution of these seaside panels. So when we came along in 2010, that was the situation in terms of seaside panels, barely visible, barely legible text. That was by the Malta Tourism Authority. We came along and we learned as we went along that panels need to be less busy, more user-friendly, and so on and so forth. But there's a lot of information on those panels, okay? This is the website. You can go back to June 2010 and request the data for citizen science data, and it's plotted on your website, okay? It's plotted on that map. So we have in our database thousands of citizen science reports, which are all validated. We don't just accept reports and they go in the database, we check them and we communicate and we give feedback back to the citizen science. So we have a network of thousands of citizen science scientists here in Malta. And I would like to say as well that not just in Malta, because when it comes to alien species, we even have a group of collaborating citizen scientists in places like Libya and even Western Egypt. Okay, we've published quite a good number of papers with young scientists from those regions, okay? So these are some of the booklets and some of the productions that we've produced and which are very important, very popular, like ink treatment booklet, which we'll post on our website, okay? Then for the aliens, spot the alien campaigns and spot the alien fish campaigns, okay? We started with the spot the alien, but people were getting the wrong impression that is just fish, which could be alien species. So we said no. So we have to do another campaign for the alien. Okay. These are some of the activities that we do throughout the year, but especially in summer. Okay. This is for spot the jellyfish, and we collaborate besides the IOI, even with other partners, like for example the Malta Tourism Authority. Okay. This is one of such events. One of these events, Blue Flag Beaches, and. Okay. This is, for example, an arts competition we had with kids. Okay. This is to measure water temperature data through bracelets we give to people going into the sea. Okay. I'm skimming through this. This is the microplastics, the fourth citizen science campaign. Okay. So it's obviously making use of AI, which is considered an industry 4.0 type of technology. Okay. And it works on image analysis, where basically through your smartphone app, you download the app and you run the algorithm. It takes photos of these microplastics and it gives you in real time a lot of information on these microplastics. Okay, this is a short video which is embedded within the app. So when you go on the beach, you're given this pack, including that frame, that quadrat with the sieves and the shovel. Okay. So the sieves are 5 millimeters and 1 millimeter, because the definition of large microplastics is that they fall between 1 and 5 millimeters. Okay, once you have the microplastics, you put them on the sheet of paper, which is included in the pack. There's the QR code. You run the app, which you would have installed, obviously. Take the photo, and there's instructions on how to take the photos, because you cannot have shade, the microplastics shouldn't touch each other, and so on. The app runs, and it gives you the information in real time. So I think it's a brilliant, initiative. So, and this is how it works for different microplastics. So it detects the color, the roughness, whatever, okay? So, okay, it's taking microplastic selfies. I'm scrolling through this because, okay, and this is what the app looks like, okay? So when you're downloading that, don't type just Andromeda, because Andromeda, there's a lot of rock bands and so on. You have to type Andromeda microplastics, okay? It's available for all platforms, for all types. This is the future, what we want to do now, identifying jellyfish through AI as well. So hopefully in a few years' time, we'll be here talking to you about this new app where you take photo of jellyfish and it identifies it through an algorithm, okay? And the last, I will be skimming this in 1 minute, okay? In 1 minute, this is the use of the latest digital tools, okay, that we've developed. So, for instance, okay, I skimmed the 3D models. Some of you are familiar because we were at an event yesterday, okay? The humanoid robots, and these are photos from just taken yesterday. Some of you can recognize some of yourself over there with Pepper the robot. He is loaded with loads of quizzes, fun facts, besides being very, very charismatic. That is the Maltese Environment Minister on the right, okay? The VR virtual reality filming, so that's myself on the left, using this 360-degree camera, where we shot these innovative documentaries and we placed them on the VR headsets. You can see the course director on the left there using them, okay? So that's Oni, just yesterday, okay? He loved the experience, okay? He loved the experience. So when we're saying we bridge the generational gap, I put that slide on purpose, okay? Yes, we're getting all generations through technology. The Sky Dancer, okay? A lot, so we have the app which links with panels during your visit to a number of sites, not just sites which are linked with the sea or sciences like Explora or the aquarium, but even archaeological parks. So even though you're going to the archaeological park to learn about temples and so on, there will still be a corner about the ocean. So we're putting the ocean everywhere, even in places which are far from the sea, relatively far in Malta, okay, in Dina. So we're putting installations over there as well. Okay, I'm skimming. Okay, and this is in fact at the Dina Natural History Museum. We have these touch tables and the interactive kiosks, all filled with documentaries and info about the sea. Okay, just skimming these photos about activities we had. This is Science in the City last year. This is Science in the City this year. Okay, so there's a lot of citizen engagement. Incidentally, that young lady is my daughter, okay? she's programming every year for us, the robot. And these are activities with thousands of people. So we've reached out a significant portion of young people in a single year through our technology. So I think technology is really the answer, okay? If you really want to engage with people around the globe. Thank you.
So thank you very much, Alan. I appreciate that there was so much to say because you've done so much. But it's very good how your presentation really brings forward not just what we say theoretically, but what can be actually done at grassroots level on a practical hands-on level. So taking what has been maybe brought forward in the theoretical aspect and what can be done to engage the people who ultimately need to also propel the literacy uptake that we need to achieve, the blue skilling you also mentioned at the beginning. So this brings us to the end of our speaker list. I would like to invite two representatives of the class of 2023 who are going to graduate today from the IOI training course on ocean governance. They're in the audience today. I know them personally as Ilona and Manar, but maybe you should introduce yourself very briefly before you speak. I invite you to take the podium and to give to the class and to the people who are listening to us online your message. So please.
So by way of a very quick introduction, my name is Iona Muscat. I came to this course through recommendation from the Armed Forces of Malta, where I work, but I realized that this was a much more personal endeavor more than anything else. And this is exactly what the IOI does best. It takes a subject which you would think remotely touches you, and it gives it to you, and it tells you it's yours to do something about it. So I'm leaving my introduction at that. I'm giving the floor to you for an introduction, and then we'll start with the.
Thank you, Iona. Thank you, everybody. My name is Manal Shibli. I come also from the world of sustainable development. I do consultancy on the sustainable development. And I came to this course because when we think of sustainable development projects, we always think from the land. It's rarely that we see something come from the ocean. And I'm a strong believer of seeing the planet as one thing, not divided. So today we have worked on a short and straightforward message from all of us. It's really endearing to listen to all these efforts that are put in there, and we would really Dr. Dodine's message at the end. It's really lovely to see these projects happening here in Europe and around it, and it would be lovely to have the same funding as Interreg somewhere else. No way. So now we're going to give our message. If you want to start, Iona.
Sure. So to reiterate, this is a message from the entire class of IOI 2023. I think it represents a lot of what we have been doing throughout these 5 weeks. So without further ado, life below water, the blue economy, decade of ocean science, sustainable development goals. For all of us that are gathered here today, these words resonate frequently. They have become staple terms in our line of work, and they somehow define our very own endeavors towards the subject which we hold very dear. Yet, let us all admit that these terms alone mean very little unless backed up by concrete action. It is high time that we realize that paying lip service to ocean literacy will not help break the stalemate that our precious planet finds itself in. To achieve ocean literacy is to understand the ocean's influence on us and, in return, of course, our own impact on the ocean. It means moving away from our oblivious and naive view of the ocean as a sink, where we have been washing down our industries and throwing our waste. And it is to understand that our sink is getting clogged up. It is failing to make up for our shortcomings. True ocean literacy is when policymakers are able to make informed and responsible decisions regarding the ocean. And it is also when well-informed citizens start to adopt a collective sense of ownership towards it. We believe that this shall happen only when the formal education system integrates ocean literacy across its curricula and adopts a transformative rather than an informative approach. We acknowledge that this might be easier said than done. In the face of these challenges, let us shift our focus to informal education as a means of reaching out to our civil communities and also in the hope of bridging some of the gaps. We ought to communicate the realities concerning the status of our oceans in a very simple way, ensuring that the bigger picture is accessible to all. Two ways of doing so are, as we have seen already, community involvement in immersive ocean-related experiences, and of course, by leading our younger citizens by example.
Exactly. We want also to say that achieving our sustainable development goals necessitates urgent collective effort from all disciplines to produce and communicate knowledge. We must strive to display clear signs with directions for citizens to follow, showing them how and where they can contribute to the process. We need to convince them that their work matter and their contribution truly can change. Earth systems and human systems are interconnected and interdependent. So whether we're addressing poverty, climate, or economic growth, we are sure to impinge on ocean sustainability to some degree. Thus, rather than settling for loosely applied terms such as blue economy, we ought to consider adopting ocean literacy as an underlying and fundamental element within each goal. We urge policymakers to consider the relevance of ocean welfare in all 17 SDGs and beyond. After all, essentially, everything is either coming from the ocean or ending up there. In conclusion, please allow us to recommend a thinking process whereby green and blue approaches are presented not as separate pathways, but as unified and interconnected means towards a common end. Let us therefore not categorize our actions into mere colors, lest we lose the sight of the entire spectrum that makes up our goals. There you go. Thank you.
Thank you very much on behalf of the IOI and the panel here to Iona and Manar, who have in their presentation placed emphasis on two very important catchphrases that came out, especially the question of creating knowledge that is transformative versus informative. I think that is something that's important to underpin ocean literacy approaches. And also, I liked the way, and it struck me very much, how you re-emphasize something which IOI, I think, has been preaching for many years, how the SDGs, you cannot achieve the SDGs, you cannot achieve the Sustainable Development Agenda 2030 unless you take them into account holistically. This especially, you've made the point that ocean, the vein, the thread of ocean, the blue thread of ocean runs through the green as well. So thank you very much for that. So it is very unfortunate that we are coming to the end of our panel today, and we have promised that we will keep to time on this. So I am not able to take questions, but I think we have sufficient time for maybe a summarizing statement from each speaker who is here today. And I invite you to start, David. Maybe a quick statement to summarize your...
Yes, I think, as has been said, we need a green-blue deal. Green Deal is ongoing. Blue Deal is in the making. We need to shift priorities. We need to all start acting. And I think there is a nice phrase from a Japanese poet that said that alone we're just one drop in the ocean. Together we are an ocean.
Thank you very much, David. And of course, Alan.
I would focus on the term ambassador, because you've all become now ocean ambassadors, IOI ambassadors as well, but especially ocean ambassadors. So take obviously the little that we gave you, okay, and try obviously to resonate it further. So obviously keep making waves wherever you go, and obviously keep the ocean in your heart.
Okay, thank you very much, David and Alan. And I cannot fail but to give the last words to Auni, the mentor of so many of us over here. So, Auni, what would you share with us today to conclude this?
Everything that needs to be said has been said. That's been rightly. Is how do we see the future and your role in that future? You know, Alan said how successful the project in terms of literacy, of knowing what exists around this island, and now it's great. It's done here. Now, how can we take that to developing countries, to the least developed, this experience, how can we expand that experience? There's only one way of doing it is you guys. Look at these experiences, look at this information, and see how you can do it with your own communities and in your countries, in your cities, in your villages. And that is the essence of this wonderful discussion and solutions that were said. And it's the easiest is to take this simple experience of the citizens' science that Professor Alan Dioum has showed us and worked on us and made it effective and practical. We take it back home with you, please. Thank you.
So thank you very much for your contributions, all of you. I would like to thank as well and to recognize the people who followed us online, many of which were our alumni. I would like to remind you that this is just one in a series of continuous professional development seminars that we hold for people like you, whether in person here or online. The roster of presentations will continue into the next year, so I urge you and invite you to watch this space and to join us over the next year. I thank also the speakers who were with us today. There were very many valuable insights. I thank also Nilufer Oral and Vladimir Ryabinin, who unfortunately had to leave a little early because of other commitments, the people here today. And last but not least, I want to thank the class of 2023 of the Malta course, your two representatives who made a very forceful and convincing presentation, which we as IOI will be very proud and honored to take forward and to bring to the attention of appropriate officers, including Dr. Ryabinin, whom we shall be meeting next week personally in Paris. I know that Alan, you will be carrying this in your interactions with the EU, and the same with our channels in other fora and chambers. So thank you very much for this. I think I should apologize that we didn't have time for questions, but I think we have come to a timely and conclusion of our seminar and webinar today. I hope to leave you with a lot of things to think about, but most of all with an invitation and an encouragement to action. So thank you to all people who have contributed to make today a success. Thank you.
It's so right?
No.
We start.
The awards.
No,